See, there we go. There we go. There we go. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Get a thumbs up if you can hear me. It's good stuff. There we go. There we go. Man, oh man. Welcome to another week, another episode of On the Grind. I'm so doggone stoked about this week. I've been preparing myself all week for tonight's show, tonight's conversation. It's not even a show. We gonna call tonight a conversation. It's actually not even a conversation. It's more of a transformation than anything. But I've been looking forward to this all week long. Hope everybody's having a great week. I sure am. Stoked. God is doing some amazing things, man. I'm very, very excited to be in this place, in this time, in this season, to do what I'm absolutely loving doing. Man, we're gonna get started, y'all, man. Cause I'm telling you, we want to jump right on in to tonight's conversation. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because tonight we are not just having a normal conversation. We are truly having a transformation. We are having a transformation. See, let me tell you something. There are people out there right now, there are people out there who talk about overcoming obstacles. Then there are people out there who have lived it, breathed it, fought through it, and came out on the other side with fire so very strong that it could ignite change in anyone that is truly willing to just listen. And tonight, joining me for this conversation, this transformation, he's not here to sugarcoat y'all. He ain't even sugarcoating. I'm telling you, he might drop a couple bombs on you. So if your ears are kind of sensitive, this may not be the podcast to listen to, but if you're looking for some transformation, you better get past that. He's not here to tell you what you want to hear. He's here to tell you what you need to hear, what you need to know in order to evoke some change in your life. And trust me, when this man speaks, people all over the world, they listen. They listen. Tonight's guest is debatably the world's most effective, no excuses coach, a man who has taken every hardship, every struggle, every moment that he has encountered, where life has tried to break him, turn it into that fuel, baby. Turn it into that fire. Tonight, we're gonna give it to you. We're gonna give it to you raw, that fire that you need to have in order to invoke that change that you need to have in your life. He doesn't just preach about mindset. This man tonight embodies it. He has built a movement all over the world around radical accountability, personal mastery, and truly owning your own power. No matter what life throws at you, you're in control. You have the power to overcome it. From surviving circumstances that most people can't even imagine, to standing on stages around the world, to coaching leaders, to transforming lives, and proving that no excuses is the way to go. They have it. Excuses truly are just stories that we tell ourselves. And this man, he is truly the very definition of the word unstoppable. Let me tell you something. If you're sitting there feeling stuck, if you're sitting there feeling lost, feeling like life is throwing roadblocks in your way, you need to tell you something. You need to lean in, because tonight's conversation with Christopher is about to shake the foundations of every excuse you've ever held on to. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want you to help me welcome to the show. This is truly an absolute honor, an absolute privilege. Welcome to the show, my friend, my man, one of my business partners, man. We're gonna do some stuff together. We're gonna do some stuff together. We're gonna talk about each other. We're gonna talk about it. My guy, Mr. Christopher Rausch.
Well, there I am. Hey, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls.
There you are.
I was like, wait a minute, he still sees me backstage. I hope so.
Yes,
man, that introduction was fire. I was like, let's go. Bring me on. Let's go. Listen. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you so much for having me on here, and I'm excited to have the conversation tonight with you.
And listen, it's an absolute honor, privilege. I've been saying your name, Rausch, for a long time. Am I even pronouncing it correctly?
Rausch. Yeah, kind of like ouch, but it's Rausch.
We never even corrected me, so it's all good. Yeah, man, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
I'm excited. Let's rock and roll.
Let's get it. Listen, you mentioned it to me earlier, and I was thinking about that today, what you told me. A year ago, I was on your podcast.
March 5th, we're on Unscripted Show.
Yes. Look, ain't that how God works, man?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's
crazy how fast time goes by, too. It's like, what? I went back and I'm like, he was on my show. And I went back and checked it. And I'm like, March 5th, nearly just a year.
Almost, yeah, man. It's almost a year. Almost a year. That's good stuff. Well, listen, man, you and I have spoken off camera multiple times. We're friends, we're business partners, colleagues. Go ahead and give the people a little overview of who you are, man. You can leave it out where you are right now. Just kind of give us a backdrop, the backstory.
Sure. As a matter of fact, I was just telling the story earlier today, blew some minds, but basically I'm a former homeless 7th grade dropout who lived in the backseat of a station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs with my mother who had various psychological disorders. 13 years old, I dropped out of the 7th grade. And because my mom lost the house and she decided that she was the crazy cat lady and didn't want to give up her cats. So we had 30 cats, but we only got 18 of them into the 69 Country Squire station wagon. Went on a journey for 4 years, living on the streets and living in crappy motels. During that time, I tried to kill myself twice. Unfortunately, I sucked at it. I got carjacked once. I had to dig through dumpsters. I had to work different jobs, all sorts of things. Drugs, alcohol, bad things with bad people, you name it. My destiny was on a crash course with either death or jail or obviously where I'm at today. It was a pretty crazy experience. I'm actually very grateful for those experiences because it helped me shape the man I am today. And I'm very proud of who I am today. But ultimately went back and got my GED at 17 years old. Some guy put a gun to my head because he thought I was racist because I went and buy a stolen carton of cigarettes from him. And I told him, I said, man, I don't smoke Marlboro Reds. Don't stereotype me. I smoke cool menthols. Right. I said, mother. And I went to reach into my back pocket to pull out my smokes because I was coming back into this motel. And fucking homeboy just pulled a 9mm and put it against my head. And he goes, I should blow your motherfucking brains out. And I said, why don't you then? I said, pull the trigger if you got the guts. And in that moment, I thought, I'm going to hear a click. My mom's going to be without me to beat up and all these different things. I was abused as a kid. I was bullied as a kid. And fortunately, my friend Will came running out. And he's like, no. Him and his moms are cool. And I was like, holy moly. Like, wow, this is stuff that you see in the movies. And it was at that point, honestly, Chris, that I sat on the stairs of this motel looking at the prostitution and the drugs and the cops, and there's no bullshitting. That was exactly what was going on. And I thought, man, I'm going to get out of here in a cop car. I'm going to get out of here in a pine box, or I'm going to have to make decisions for myself that don't include my mom. And up until that point, it was all about my mom and her validation and getting her love and support and doing everything for her. And I realized that she wasn't going to do it for me and I had to do it for myself. And so, yeah, it started the journey, and we could talk about that because a lot of cool stuff happened from that point.
So what got you to this point? So like, what was that pivotal moment in your life that made you change? If it wasn't that pistol in front of your face, what was it that got you to come on this, the new course?
It really was that. I was like, I can't continue doing this. Otherwise, I'm going to be dead or in jail. All the people that I hung out with, they're going to jail, been in jail. People were killing themselves. People were overdosing. And so I had to leave that situation. And, God, source, universe, whatever you want to believe in. I was working at one of my jobs was a telemarketing job in this guy's apartment, which is crazy. It sounds disgusting, but it was setting roofing appointments. And one of the guys in the motel got me the job. So we used to carpool every day to his apartment in Huntington Beach here in Southern California. And one day we showed up here probably about a week or so after this situation, after this epiphany happened. And he said, hey guys, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And I was like, bro, I've had enough bad news to last a lifetime. He goes, you're 17 years old. And I said, dude. And he kind of knew my situation, but he didn't know my situation because I never really told anybody about it. And he says, well, I got the bad news is that I'm moving the business to Texas. He goes, the good news is I know you guys live in this crappy motel. I want to give you my apartment. So basically, first and last, you guys just take over the lease and you guys can have this place. And me and Robert looked at each other and was like, oh my God, Huntington Beach, a beautiful apartment with plants and all sorts of stuff. And we were again living in a rundown, crappy motel that ultimately got destroyed because the building condemned it. That's how bad it was. Turn on the light switch, the roaches scattered, all that good stuff. And so in that moment, we were like, oh man, we could do this, right? And I thought for the first time in my life, I'm like, I have to tell my mom this, right? And she's not gonna approve of this. And so I had to really, really dig in my heart and think, if I don't get out of this situation, I will wind up dead or in jail. She will not help me. There's another story behind that. So I made the decision. She called me every name in the book. She tried to have me arrested for taking my own car, all this stuff. And 5 guys and myself, 5 guys, including me, lived in an apartment eating ketchup sandwiches. I worked 3 jobs. I had 2 jobs during the day, 1 job during the day, 1 job at night, 1 job on the weekend. And ultimately, I got to a point where somebody invited me to go back and get what's called a GED instead of my diploma because I dropped out in the 7th grade. I thought the guy was crazy. But from there, I made that decision to go back and get my GED, and it spawned a perpetual motion for me to continually work on myself. And so ultimately 12 years later, after getting my GED, of sticking in college, going to accelerated courses in college, getting my bachelor's degree, I ultimately got my master's degree at the age of 30, the same year I bought my first house.
Wow.
So there's the journey. I mean, there's so much in between that. I got married, got divorced. I mean, yeah. It was.
So what was that? Because man, you are known as the no excuses guy. One of my things I'll talk about B about it. So you're the no excuses coach. What was that moment in your life where you realized that life is throwing some stuff at you, and I could either sit in this thing or I could make some things happen? What was that moment like?
That moment, honestly, was a guy named Bill White. He was my girlfriend's dad. She was 17 years old, going to high school, prom queen, all the highfalutin stuff. And here I am. I have long hair. I have a beard. I smoke cigarettes. I live in an apartment with 5 guys. And I'm thinking this guy's going to take one look at me and go, get the heck out of my daughter's life. And I thought he was going to just look at me and not look in me. And he saw something in me that nobody else saw. I did poorly in school. I was bullied at school. I had 0 confidence. It's like, to be the man in front of you guys today, it's taken a lot. And so that no excuses approach kind of came into that. But he sat there and he said to me one day, he goes, Christopher, he goes, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. What? Huh? Can you say that again? That sounded like some really, Albert Einstein shit or something like that. Right. He says, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. And truth be told, I have it tattooed on my arm right there. For those of you guys watching, it says, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. I have a little WTW on there in respect to him because he actually passed away. I was with him after I married his daughter and got divorced. It was 5 years after we got divorced. I was still by his bedside in the hospital when he passed away. It was me on one side and his wife on the other side with his kids in the room. Me, the dude that divorced his daughter and kind of left his life. I was there, got to hold his hand and tell him, Bill, I got it. And I've stayed in touch with my ex-wife, my mother-in-law, her sister unfortunately passed away, but I've been in their lives for 30 years, 35 years. So that moment when he told me that, it lighted something in myself. And he's the guy that said, would you go back and get your GED? And there was no internet. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And I just picked up a telephone. I started calling high schools and I said, do you have a GED program? 5 calls later, I found one that had it. And I thought, man, this is going to take me 20 years. It's going to be a miserable failure. I'm going to be an embarrassment. But as we know, I ultimately got my master's degree.
That's good, man. Let's go back a little bit. When you talk about your upbringing, now that you found in your ex-wife's father who kind of sparked some things in you, what were some things, I know you kind of grew up hard, what were some things that you think that you missed growing up that you wish that you would have had that would have helped you kind of propel your life a little bit faster? What are some of those things you think you missed?
That's a great question. I've been asked that before, and it's a weird answer. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing because in retrospect, I would never want to go back and repeat these things. My book, A Story About My Life, My Story About My Life with My Mom, It's Just You and Me, Kid, is coming out in probably about 3 or 4 months. It's the story of my mom and I and the ups and downs and the craziness. Never knew my biological father. My mother told me when I was old enough to understand, she said, your biological father was married and had kids of his own. His wife was actually pregnant at the same time she was. And my mom thought he was going to leave his wife for her and help raise me, which he didn't. So I never knew him. I knew of him, but never knew him. And that was the only thing for a while in my life was, man, I wish I had a dad. Man, I wish I had somebody to kind of show me how to fight. I wish I had somebody, because I was bullied at school. I was bullied on my block. I was bullied in my house. So I wish I'd had that. But because I didn't, and because I was always looking, I shouldn't say always, when I met Bill, he introduced me to personal growth and personal development and Tony Robbins. And I just became immersed in learning that there were actually people out there who were successful. And if you followed what it is that they did, success leaves clues, right? That you might be able to achieve that same level of success. So in retrospect, I'm thankful that all those experiences happened for me and not to me. Would never want to repeat them again. A lot of ugly stuff, a lot of good stuff. But yeah, taking responsibility for my life and taking that imperfect action every single day and sacrificing and immersing myself and going to the library and checking out books and cassette tapes and asking people questions and never giving up, never stopping, is a large part why I'm still here.
That's good, bro. I talk a lot about my journey. I'm like you. I didn't meet my father. Did you ever meet him? Did you ever meet him?
No. I finally did research on him. I had his birth name. I had his place of birth, and I can't remember what else I had, but I ultimately found out that he died in 1993. He had stomach cancer. I found his death certificate online. So that was it.
Got it.
But yeah, never talked to him. Never
talked to him. I went on this journey where I wanted to meet him. I wanted to meet my biological father. I didn't meet my biological father, man. I was 30 years old.
What was that like?
35. I was 35 years old.
Did you want to beat him up? What was the situation behind it?
My sister lives in Atlanta, and she was having a 40th birthday party, and she reached out to me through some network. I got like 6 brothers and sisters, right? So through that process, one of the sisters that I knew from high school reached out to the sister that I had in Atlanta and said, you have a brother who lives in Florida. And then from that one conversation, I had an opportunity to actually meet my father at 35 years old. Now, long story short, I didn't maintain the relationship for a long period of time because I just felt like I was too old. Like it was like pulling teeth trying to figure out this commonality. But I'm gonna tell you something. I went on this journey when I turned 50. When I went on the journey in 2022, I decided I wanted to mend that relationship with him. Nice. And I went to Detroit, bro. And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm going somewhere. My father told me. I had this narrative in my own thinking process, right, of what I thought that process was with my biological father, and what happened and what didn't happen, what I thought I missed, what I thought I longed for. And it was in that conversation, man. This man tells me, he said, the best thing that I ever could have done for you was to not be in your life.
That's deep.
That's deep. He said, because everything that you became was in spite of.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And who would have known if I was in your life, would you have had that same drive to overcome some things?
What do you think made you unique? I think about this for myself. What made you unique in the fact that so many other people in the world, young boys like us, didn't make it, and they hold that resentment and that anger? I would have been successful if I had a dad. What do you think what do you attribute it to?
I know it had a 100% was my relationship with God, right? Replacing my biological father, my earthly father, with a spiritual father, right? So I no longer needed that earthly, validation. I saw it in Christ, right? But here's the other thing. I also had a son at 19 years old. So 19 years old, I had a son. By 21, by 21, 22, I was a single father, living it. Yeah. So I knew. Yeah. So my whole thing was, I didn't want my son, my biological, I didn't want him to go through what I had to go through. Right. So my whole journey was to make sure that I do everything that he didn't do, that my biological didn't do. Right. Mm-hmm. Just like you on this journey of reading books and self self-discovery and self-transformation, and trying to every opportunity that I had to read a book and to find out, to discover some stuff that I didn't know, that I didn't have an earthly person to tell me. I sought it. I'm reading Anthony Robbins. I'm reading Les Brown. I'm reading Zig Ziglar. I'm reading anything that somebody could say, hey, this is the book, this is the key to life. Anything that somebody would have said, listen, you stand on your head and bark like a puppy. Listen, that's going to be the key to success. You can find me like that doing it. You know what I'm saying? So anything that I could have done that I put my hands to, man, to become successful, I was willing to do it.
You and I share that same thirst and that same passion. That's what bugs the shit out of me, especially with people today, is they have all these excuses. And I'm like, do you effing realize you carry around a computer in your pocket that has all the answers? You can go on YouTube and how do I fix my finances? How do I have better communication in my relationships? How do I exceed at work? How do I, you got Google, ChatGPT, and YouTube. There are no excuses. So it blows my mind. I had somebody, Chris, asked me this a couple of weeks ago, actually about a month ago. He said, Chris, I want to get in better shape. What do you recommend for me to start with? I laughed. It was over Facebook Messenger. I laughed to myself and I'm like, I would first recommend going on YouTube and Googling and finding out all the different alternatives and opportunities that you have. I would make a list of them and I would say, this week, I'm going to tackle these 3 things. Next week, I'm going to tackle these 3 things. And next week, I'm going to tackle these 3 things. I said, over a period of time, you will find the confidence and the belief in yourself to be able to achieve it. I said, but if you just sit there and hope, wish, and pray and hope that someday you're going to find it, it's ridiculous. And if you're not going to be resourceful, which is what I teach people, it's like, when you have a big enough why, you have a big enough how. That's really the crux of how I changed my life. Was I started realizing I don't want to end up homeless again. That was my biggest thing. Like, I could still remember the stitching in the backseat of that station wagon. I could still remember it. 69 Ford Country Squire station wagon with the wood paneling. And I'm like, I never want to be homeless again. And that was my whole drive. What do I have to do? How do I have to get promoted at work? Boom, boom, drive. And it's so funny because when people have leverage in their life, they change. And I proved this point beyond a reasonable doubt the other day. Somebody was telling me that they had trouble losing weight. And I said, so what do you want to lose? And they said, it would be nice to lose 20 pounds. And I said, well, what have you tried? Blah, 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 this little drawn out conversation. Right. No, and I said, tell me your favorite car. Like, if you had your dream car, if somebody just drove up to your house right now, your apartment, whatever it is, and gave you your dream car, what would that be? She said a Lamborghini. And I'm like, ooh, the Diablo, the Countach, what would it be? And so she tells me, and I sat there and I said, okay, all things being equal, I said, in 30 days, I ask you to lose 20 pounds. In 30 days, I drive up in that Lamborghini and I say, here are the keys, no taxes, no nothing. It's yours. I said, are you going to lose the 20 pounds? Yes or no? Don't even think about it. Are you going to do it? And she goes, oh, hell yeah, I would. And I'm like, I rest my case. And she goes, that's why you're the no excuses coach. I'm like, there is leverage in it. You would do it. You would figure it the fuck out. Absolutely. But otherwise you're not. Otherwise you're going to stay in that little victimhood. And, I can't do it. And you're going to continue not to do it. Then you're going to end up on your grave one day going, man, I probably could have done it.
You're so right, man. As a coach, trainer in the gym, that's one of the things I'm always trying to tell my people is like, you got to have that why. Like, why are you doing this? What's that thing that you're trying to accomplish? What's the reason why we're going on this journey together?
And the deeper reason.
You gotta go deep. If that why is so surface, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. You're gonna find yourself at that table and you're not gonna push away from it. Trust me, it's not a big enough why. So you gotta have that huge why. Man, going back over your journey, man, we're gonna talk about some things. But do you ever think back over your journey, over your life? And slip back into some of those old patterns that you had to overcome? Do you ever find yourself slipping back into some of those old patterns?
Oh, are you kidding, man? I'm perfect. I never go back into those old patterns. I'm 100% perfect. No, I was just actually telling somebody today that even I had that negative self-talk in my brain. Even I sometimes had that imposter challenge. Like, who am I really to say this? And it's in those moments, the most important thing that we can do is just stop and catch ourselves and go, where is that coming from? Right. And so I love to ask questions. I teach people how to ask questions. You ask questions and you answer them honestly. There's a lot that can be done in your life. So I ask myself, what am I supposed to be learning through this? Like, if I'm having this experiential moment in time where I'm thinking a little bit negative and I'm slipping back into old patterns, whether for a while it was alcohol, Right now, truth be told, I am probably about 10, 15 pounds heavier than I usually am. And I didn't realize that it crept up on me. Was at the gym one day and I never really get on the scale because I'm like, I'm good. My pants fit. I noticed they fit a little snugger, but I walked by the scale and I said, get your ass on the scale.
Right.
And so I went on the little, the old school scale, and I kept moving that big one over. And usually I'm about 210, 213. I probably, stay right in there. I used to be a lot 230, 235 when I was bigger. And it kept creeping up. I was like 227. I'm like, well, how did that happen? Right. And I'm like, I had asked myself the question. I'm like, how did that happen? I'm like, I've been snacking on sweets just a little bit more. It was during the holidays a little bit.
Yeah.
I said, but I can attribute it to a number one thing. I normally do my portion size, about this. I mean, I'm really good about portion size because I can eat the shit out of stuff. And so I'm like, Chris, my wife is an excellent cook. And so usually I cut stuff up in half and I put it in my little Tupperware container ahead before I eat so I don't overeat. And I had not been doing that. So I got real with myself. I got honest with myself. And then I said, I need to go back to doing that right away. And so I caught myself, and that's what a lot of people don't do. They get kind of complacent and get kind of lazy. And so, yeah, I mean, all the different things in my life, it's not easy. And sometimes it is a challenge. And sometimes I have to sit there and remind myself, like, even though I'm in great shape, what about excellent shape? What about excellence in my podcast? What about excellence in my coaching? What about excellence in my parenting? What about excellence in my marriage? Is average okay? And I tell people, when did it become acceptable to be mediocre? And so I ask myself that, I shift my actions and what I'm doing, and I go back to get on the right track of where I was. So no, it's a challenge sometimes.
It's challenging. So you basically had to take a pause. So you pause and find out where that information is coming from. Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah. What do you say to people, man, listeners, you're coaching someone, and they look at their situation, and sometimes their excuses could be valid. You know what I'm saying? And it gets them stuck there. So what do you say to people who feel like their excuses are so valid, that's the reason why they're not able to move forward? What do you tell them?
I have a hard time finding anybody's excuses valid. The biggest one that kind of comes to my mind is I had somebody tell me the other day, again, about weight loss and whatnot and the mindset behind it. And they said, well, I have Hashimoto's, I have blah, 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 count off all the different, different disorders of the body, I guess, if you will. And I said, have you seen a doctor about it? Yeah. What do they want to do? They said, there's nothing they could do, or they want to put me on these pills. And I said, number one, I'm going to ask you, I said, have you ever changed what it is that you're eating? Well, yeah, I kind of tried that and it didn't work. And I'm like, well, you kind of tried it. How long did you try it for? What kind of results did you see? Were you seeing a health and diet coach? Were you like really carrying it through? And they said, no. And I said, well, I'm giving yourself a chance. I said, number one, because a lot of things can be cured by what it is that you eat. I said, I personally have had chronic pain since 2006. I said, it wasn't until I did 75 hard, which you know about 75 hard. For those of you guys out there who don't know 75 hard, Google it. I've done that program 4 times successfully. It's a ball buster, but it teaches you self-discipline and everything. But when I stopped eating sugar and I stopped eating wheat, gluten, and processed corn, there's a great book out there called Wheat Belly, the genetic modification of wheat. There's little things in the wheat that actually cause your intestines to get inflamed. It scars it and you get inflammation. The inflammation causes pain. Then you don't want to do stuff. So I encouraged her. I said, see somebody and stop in taking that food for an extended period of time, 3 months and 6 months. And let's see what results you get. Because I watched my wife do that same thing. She said, oh my God, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And then once she started changing the things that she was putting in her mouth, exercised more, it was like, well, I work out 3 times a week. I'm like, 3 times a week ain't gonna do it, sweetie. But once you want it bad enough and once you start to change. So in answer to your question, I mean, I really don't find, especially today in today's world, like, I don't know how to do it. I don't have time. I don't have the money. I did another thing with somebody about a couple months ago. They said, oh, I don't have the money to do it. They wanted to start a business. And I said, well, actually, I mean, the truth of it is they wanted to work with me and they found out how much I charge and they said they couldn't afford it. And so let's just use an example. So I said, if I asked you to raise $10,000 in 7 days and it can't be illegal, immoral, or unethical, I said, could you do it? And she looked at me, we're on a Zoom call, and she goes, oh, no way. If I could do that, I wouldn't need you. And blah, 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 blah. And, I'm barely making my bills and I'm all these excuses. And I said, okay, I hear you. Money's tough. It's tough. I used to have that mindset about it. I said, but who do you love most in this world? And again, it comes back to leverage. I said, who do you love most in this world? She said, my son. So what's your son's name? His name's Nathan. I said, how old is Nathan? 9 years old. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, you can't pick 7. What would you do for Nathan? On a scale of 1 to 10. She goes, 10. She goes, I'd do anything for my son. I said, would you take a bullet for your son? She goes, absolutely. I said, all right, I'm going to go dark. Kind of like you said in the intro, I go dark, I bring it. And I said, okay, I'm going to go dark. I said, I hope this doesn't hurt you or shock you. I said, but you come home from work tomorrow. I said, you walk in the door, Nathan's sitting in a chair, and there's a gentleman standing next to Nathan with a 9mm pistol at his forehead. And she's like, huh? And I said, stay with me. I said, the gentleman looks at you and says, ma'am, I'm going to pull this trigger in 7 days unless you come up with $10,000, and it can't be illegal, immoral, or unethical. I said, are you going to come up with the $10,000? Yes or no? Immediately, just like that, without hesitation. Yes, I would have to. And I'm like, oh, okay. Big enough why? Big enough how? Leverage. I said, what would you do? Give me just a couple of things. I would sell this. I would do this. I would do this. I would do that. Like all these different opportunities, these opportunities for us to be resourceful. And I realize that's a huge ask, $10,000 in 7 days. But my point is this: when you have a big enough why, you figure it out. You will stop at nothing. You will ask people for money. You will sell your car. You will sell one of your TVs. You'll sell the junk around your house. You'll go out there and wave a sign on a street corner saying, please help me raise money to save my son. You'll do whatever it takes. You'll walk around and mow lawns for $5 an hour, and you'll stay awake 13 hours a day, 17 hours a day, whatever it takes. You will do it. And that's what I tell people. It's like, your excuse is bullshit. It's a way of holding yourself back. And most people sit there and say, with the negative self-talk, the big thing I prescribe to people is eliminate 3 words from your vocabulary. Always, never, and try. Like, I always screw up. I can never do it. I'm going to try to raise the money. I'm going to try to be better at time management. I've got ADHD, and that's one of my things. It's like, no, that's not an excuse. That's just bullshit. It's like, just figure it out. You have to get resourceful enough. I use like 20 different things to keep myself focused. And is it a pain in the ass? Absolutely. Does it work? Yes. Is it cumbersome? Yes. Do I like it? No. Do I want the results? Absolutely. So it's just a matter of the people sit there and say they're going to try to do something. We're like, no, like Yoda said, I'm not a big Star Wars geek, but Yoda said, there is no try. You're just going to do it. If you decide that you're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, decide you're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym. Well, I'm not a morning person. I'm right. We'll get fat, get sick, get on a bunch of medications, go to doctor's offices, and die early. Right? Because I know somebody who personally was in better shape than me. He's on 18 different medications for his heart, for cholesterol, for other things. He feels so tired. He can't go to the gym, and he's going to wind up dead way before me. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but so it's about stopping yourself and realizing that everybody listening to this and watching this has the power within themselves to shift where it is right now. You just have to decide you want it bad enough.
That's good, man. That's good. Walk us through, man, because I mean, your story is amazing. How you able to overcome some stuff in your life is amazing. Is amazing. Everybody wants that magic pill. People always listen to a podcast because they want that magic. Walk us through your daily habits, man, because that's what's truly about. Like, what's when you wake up, get us started.
Well, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I open my phone and I look at the news for 20 minutes. No.
Listen, I definitely know that ain't it.
No. This is a great question, brother. I appreciate this. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I'm not a particularly religious person, but I'm very spiritual, and I've become that way in the last probably about 5-10 years. So I thank God for another day, because we're never guaranteed another day. We think we're going to live forever, and we're not. We're all dying, and we're all in the process of dying right now, and it's going to happen faster than we could ever surmise. I just turned 56 yesterday. It's kind of blowing my mind. But the first thing I do is I say what I'm grateful for. Most people wake up, it's going to be a shitty day. My boss going to be in a bad mood. There's going to be a bunch of traffic. And then your reticular activation system in your brain, RAS system, sits there and will find it and see, I stubbed my toe. See, I knew it was going to be a shitty day. Oh, see, there is traffic. Oh my God. Everything's going to shit in the world's hell. I get people all the time lately telling me the world's going to hell. And I'm like, I think the world's a beautiful place. I don't sit there and think the microcosm of social media and the news is representation of what 8 billion people in the world believe. I said, so number one, gratitude. I'm grateful for my son sleeping in the room next to me. I'm grateful for the bed I'm sleeping in. I'm grateful for another day that I get to use my words and my actions to make this world a better place. It's about gratitude. It's about gratitude throughout your day. Like, really, just like, I'm thankful for the leaves blowing in the trees. This shit I never focused on before, but I'm like, what a beautiful thing. The second thing I do, Chris, is I say my intentions, right? And this is key. Most of the times we think of things we have to do. And that feels like a burden. Oh, I have to do this, and I have to do this. I have to do it. No, you get to. You get to get in your car and drive. I know people who have become paralyzed who would kill to feel their foot on a brake pedal. I have a whole story about that, about a surfer who became paralyzed. That's another story. Intentions. I get to use my words and my actions to make this world a better place. My intention is to be present and playful with my son. My intention is to enjoy and appreciate life and not look at the negativity that can sometimes creep into our world, et cetera, et cetera. My intention today is to be on the podcast with Chris and impact people's lives. My intention today is to eat a little bit better in smaller portions, whatever it might be. And then I get up and I make it happen. I usually make a commitment to getting some sort of physical exercise every single day, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's walking my dog, whether it's all of it, whether it's going bike riding with my kid, whether it's doing yard work, something to raise my heart rate and ultimately fulfill when I go to sleep at night. So throughout the day, I'm doing my thing. I'm hustling. What can I do? It'll be a little bit better. I kind of think of the world this way. And it's I think crazy ways sometimes, but I think if a film crew were watching me right now, right? If somebody was watching, let me follow the life of Christopher Rausch. if somebody was, and I did this washing my truck one day, I was going to go skimp on my wheels a little bit. And I thought to myself, oddly enough, I'm like, how can I do this better? And I thought if a film crew was like, this is how Chris washes his truck. And so I would be like, man, we take details to the wheels. People notice the wheels, oh man, it's going to take me an extra 7 minutes, whatever, to really make them shine. But when next time I walk out and see my truck, I want to look at my wheels and go, I'm proud and I'm glad that I did that. Yeah. So it's really about, not accepting that averageness or that mediocrity in yourself. When I'm cleaning the house, hey, let me do the baseboards real quick. How much is that really going to take for me to walk by and be like, fuck, I'm glad I did the baseboards. All of this with the intention of when I go to sleep at night. Again, it goes back to gratitude. I will say tonight, when I put my head on the pillow and I close my eyes, usually my wife's watching TV or something like that, I say to myself, man, I am grateful today for this amazing conversation with Chris. I'm grateful today for the other conversation with Jason. I'm grateful for today for the people I got to talk to on a Zoom call and change their lives. I'm grateful for my son saying that he gave me a kiss last night when I was sleeping. And then the next thing I think about is, what am I proud of today? What are my accomplishments? What am I proud of? I'm proud of the fact that I was honest and open with Chris on the show. I'm proud of myself for making better food choices. And so I go to sleep with that. And so that cycle of repetition, isn't perfect. Some days I do wake up and I'll admit this, I have this overwhelming fear of the world coming to an end. I will admit that. I've had this feeling since I was a kid that I would see an apocalyptic kind of situation happen in the world. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be an earthquake here in California. Obviously there's things that happen, but I feel and have felt that there would be something really terrible that's going to happen. And I hope, wish, and pray that it never does. But sometimes we have to go through terrible things to rebuild and become stronger and better. So yeah, that's how I do it.
Is it like a premonition, do you feel? Or is it just something? What do you think that came from?
I have no idea. I think I had horrible dreams when I was a little kid. Okay. I remember waking up and being frightened, and I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was, past life regression, because I've been studying that, over the years. Sometimes our dreams could be connected to other realities. I mean, there's so much big stuff out there that we don't even comprehend. But my belief that the world is an amazing place. And my belief is that we will rise and we will make this world an amazing place. I also believe that, through my own experiences and the experiences I've seen from other people, that sometimes we have to go through some really tough and dark times in order for us to collectively get our shit together and say, you know what, we're not going to stand for that anymore. Right. We're better together. Like here in the United States, you remember 9/11.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody knows where they were on 9/11. But the beauty of seeing the flag, I get chills. I swear to God, every time seeing the flags, people were nicer on the freeway. People opened the door. People were like, hey, how you doing? We collectively had this bond. Like, no, you're not going to, we may disagree. We may fight, but nobody's going to fuck with us. Right. And that lasted all about 6 months. And then went back to going, oh, God damn it, you cut me off. And, like, just, I tell people every single day, like, if there's 8 billion people on this planet, if we all just did one thing for somebody else, hold the door, say hi, make them laugh, buy somebody a meal, buy them a coffee, text somebody and say, how are you doing? I care about you. If everybody did that in this entire world with one other person, I believe in a matter of weeks, we would see a massive shift in humanity, in depression, in loneliness, in self-worth. But we're so busy thinking that, oh, if I get the money, if I get the fame, if I get the body, if I get the girlfriend, if I get the business, then I'll be happy. And that is complete bullshit, because I know famous rock stars, I know famous actors, I know famous people that are rich, and every single one of them, when I ask them, like, did achieving that fill that void that you thought it was going to fill? And every single person, without a doubt, immediately says no. And I had somebody tell me that's a multimillionaire. He says, I wish everybody could achieve their dreams to realize that that's not what's going to fulfill them.
Wow.
And like for me, becoming a dad was like one of the greatest gifts in my life at 47.
It's almost like it's reversed. I remember Will Smith. I don't know whether you like Will Smith or not, like Will Smith. He said,
I loved him. I read his book until he slapped the foot out of Chris Rock.
Yeah. He talked about that, man. He talked about success. He said, it was powerful how he said it. He said, none of this. He said, none of this. Not the money, not the cars, not the women, not the fame, the success. He said it's nothing when you get to this point. When you finally get there and you realize this ain't happiness. You know what I'm saying? Now there's glimpses of it that he talked about.
Right.
But people chase this very thing, thinking that when they get there, it's gonna be a whole nother. He said it ain't. He said the happiness is not there. You got to find. You talked about it. You got to find that happiness on the inside of you first. Because if you just are a miserable person on the inside of you, whether you got $5 in your pocket or $1 million or a couple $1 billion in your pocket, you still gonna just be unhappy.
Yep, it's so true. Like, well, so let me ask you, what's your why?
I have a fear. I have a fear that I won't leave a mark, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a huge fear that I won't leave a mark or that my life won't matter. You know what I'm saying? That's a huge fear for me. Like, I chase my life mattering every single day. Like, I don't care if it's me speaking to somebody kindly. I don't care if it's a word of encouragement. My why is I want to make the world a better place because I was here. And I have a huge fear that it won't. Does that make sense?
Oh, so dude, I'm gonna give you and the audience something to really consider. I love that. I was at a funeral in 2008. I always go to, when I worked in corporate, I was a successful leadership guy and director of operations in a corporate space for 30 years. I left that in 2019 to do what I do now. Actually do my dreams instead of pursue my dreams. I got a coach and she got real with me. But in 2008, I was at a funeral for one of my coworkers. And I went to every funeral. Anytime somebody invites me to a funeral, I go. I feel like there's something I can, even if I don't really know the person, I feel like there's always something I get out of it for myself. And this particular time, I was sitting in the very back of the church, like as I always do. And I was seeing coworker after coworker going up and eulogizing this lady. Jesus Christ, her name's fucking Ann Britcher. I know her. And seeing my buddy Dave Riley get up there in his gray suit with his pink tie and start blubbering about what a beautiful person was and how great she was and how people really didn't know her. And in that moment, Chris, I sat there and I asked myself one of the most poignant questions I could ever ask. And this is where you get real with yourself, thinking about what you're just talking about. Is I said, if I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say?
There you go. Yes.
Oh, talk about cutting the mustard, man. I was like, oh, in that moment, I thought 10, 15 people would show up and they would probably talk about all the stupid shit Chris did. Oh my God. Remember that time he passed out and we'd stack food on his head? Remember that time he was drunk? Remember that time he did this? Remember that time he did this? And then the postscript on all of that would be, yeah, but you know, he was a homeless 7th grade dropout who wrote a book that became a movie that changed the world. And I thought in that moment, honestly, Chris, I was like, is that how I want to be remembered? Is the jokester and the alcoholic and this and that and da. And it kind of hit me. And then I was driving home. I had an 1.5-hour drive from that funeral and it kept bothering me and it bothered me. And I'm like, well, what can I do about this? What can I do about this? I can't change the past. I can't go back and rewrite any of that. I'm a good person today, but most people will remember you as how you were. And I thought, you know what? And I went home and I did the most uncomfortable thing that I get my coaching clients to do. Pretty much. There's one other one that's really bad, but I have people write their eulogy.
Share it.
Oh yeah. I have people write their eulogy. No, the other one's really bad. The other one's writing a death note to your family. And that one fucking makes you like ugly cry. I won't even get on that. But the eulogy, that's tough enough for most people to want to think about their death. And I'm like, no, it's going to happen. Yep, we're all getting out of here one way or another. So I went home, and I'm a big fan of paper. Like I order these yellow pads by the dozens on Amazon. And so I picked up my favorite pen and I started writing. This is 2008. And I started writing, and I had no idea what I was going to write. And I thought I had all these things in my mind of what I thought was going to be important for my life before I wrote it down. And then I just allowed myself just to write it down. I'm like, today we're gathered here to honor the life of Christopher Rausch, blah, 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 blah. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote till I got to the end of the paper. And I thought, there, I did it. I went to my kitchen, got a glass of water, came back, sat down, and was like, all right, what's next? Because I'm always about what's next. I used to be. Now I'm about being in the moment.
That's good.
So I came back and I was like, what's next? And I went, wait, Chris. This is a eulogy, brother. This is a eulogy. We got to read it. Let's see what you wrote. Right? I think I did it, but I was like, what'd I write? And I started reading it. I'm like, no. We are gathered here. We got to say this. So in my office by myself, we are gathered here today, ladies and gentlemen, to honor the life of Christopher Rausch. And I start reading and reading and reading. And then all of a sudden, something happened. And I started fucking crying. I still get choked up when I think about it. I remember sitting there vividly. It was in my other house. And I remember I started not boo-hooing, but just like tears rolling down my face. And I got to the part where the crux of it is this. Like you write your eulogy, but then you basically encapsulate it. And so when you think about my why is that Christopher Rausch will have fought for what's right and what's fair. He will have risked for which that mattered, and he will left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. And so that's my legacy. And in that moment, I was like, holy shit. My mind was like, and so I've been coaching for over 20 years. I have all my coaching clients do it. And whenever we get in a pickle or a sticky situation, I ask them, I said, is that going to fulfill the legacy that you wrote? Is that what people are going to show up and say about you? And I can honestly say that's 2008. I don't know how many fucking years that is. That's a lot of years.
A lot of years.
I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, Chris, God forbid I pass away tomorrow, I know that my son will remember me as being an amazing dad and being present and not perfect. But I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, people from all over the world would show up on social media, most likely, and say, Chris changed my life.
There you go.
Chris made me think differently about myself. Chris gave me confidence. Chris gave me hope, blah, 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 blah. Still those 10 or 15 people would go, but yeah, man, he got whatever. I mean, that's cool. It's part of my life. It's part of my legacy. I'm not, it is what it is. I had a good time. But the overwhelming majority of the people that I impact every single day would show up and say, man, he did it. And so for me, that's how it's done.
That's good, brother. Man, you got so much stuff that we can unpack.
It's again, make sure you guys get the book. It's Just You and Me, Kid. If you go to itsjustyoumandmekid.com, you guys can get a synopsis of it and help me make it a bestseller when it comes out. It's really a phenomenal book. It's been one of the biggest, well, I shouldn't say the biggest, one of the biggest challenges in my life. It's one thing for me to talk to you about it and say, hey, here's my life. I don't know, have you ever written a book? Have you written a book about your life?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't about my life. It's called It's Time to Shift. It wasn't about my life though. That is my next one though. I'm going to do one.
Okay. I avoided this book like a plague. I have 2 other books nearly written, but my mentor asked me to write my life story first. I thought I would write my life story after the 2 other books and kind of be established first. She told me to write this, and I started it October of 2020, 2022 or 2020. I think it was 2020. It's been a long journey, but for me to sit down and put all these different things, and not even my entire life, this is just my life related to my mom for the most part. For me to go into the detail and share people, like paint that picture of people being in that experience with me, was truly painful. But I said, what can I get out of this? And I thought, how can I shift my perspective about those situations? And so in each situation, I kind of looked at it from a different perspective. And I thought, okay, this is how it happened for me, not to me. But truthfully, in doing this process, it has been one of the most arduous, painful. I've had to read the book like 20 times because I've been through 3 editors. I'm going through and reading it again, hopefully the final edit. But it's one of the most proud accomplishments that I have over the master's degree, over the successful career, over the money I've made, over the being on stage, having Les Brown interview me and I'm meeting him and having him try to put me back in a suit and tie. I have those pictures. I think I told you that story. But this I'm supremely proud of, because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt it's going to change millions of lives. So yeah. And I love the questions, man. I appreciate this. I appreciate this exchange.
I mean, we got so much. We're gonna do a part 2. We're gonna do a part 2. Man, the reality is you're known as a radical person who takes the radical accountability approach. No sugarcoating, no coddling. Why do you think so many people struggle with taking full responsibility for their lives?
Because they use blame. They blame it. They blame it on their parents. They blame it on their physiology. They blame it on their boss. They blame it on society. They blame it on the government. They don't accept responsibility. And ultimately, wherever you're at in your life, you're there.
Right.
I tell people, aside from the 3 words to eliminate, I said 5 words. It is what it is. Like, it is what it is. I'm in a financial situation. It is what it is. I hate my job and I'm not doing anything about it. I'm in a terrible relationship and I'm not doing anything about it. It is what it is. But it's up to us to sit there and say, what is the one thing that I can do by which doing so will make a difference in that? Can I start looking for another job? Can I look to change my career? But Chris, it's going to take so long. Yeah. But the 3 years hopefully are going to go by either way. And wouldn't you like to get on the other side of that 3 years and be like, oh my God, I changed my career and now I'm so much happier. I've had help to help people go through divorces and breakups and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to suck. But Chris, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard and it's going to suck and you're going to cry and you're going to feel alone. But on the other side of it, can you imagine yourself with a person who loves you and really treats you well? You deserve that. And it really comes down to that, Chris. It comes down to our self-worth. It comes down to ultimately our self-love. And I proved this during COVID because I gave out my way of giving back to people. I'm always trying to give is I gave out these complimentary coaching sessions. I said, hey, it's a free session. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I just want to help people over the internet. And I had probably a couple of hundred, not a couple hundred, maybe about like 115, 100. I don't know. It was a lot. I was talking a lot. And the thing I started hearing is, these stories that people were telling themselves. Like they're telling them stories over and over and over again, and that becomes their truth. And I had this little whisper in my head that said, ask him this question. And I believe in listening to the whispers. And so I heard the whisper and I heard the question and I was like, that's ridiculous. People are going to think I'm fucking nuts. Don't do it. Don't ask it. And then I kept hearing the whisper, ask him this, ask him this. And so I said, hey, Chris, I'm going to ask you a question and I don't want you to think about it. Don't think I'm crazy, but do you love yourself? Yes or no? And then I was shocked because I thought people were like, well, that's a stupid question. Of course I love myself. Not really giving it a lot of time to think about it, but about 85%, a large majority of people on the other end of the camera looked at me and went, I think so. I think for the most part.
They literally had to think about it.
I don't like myself, but I think and I just over and over and over again. And I'm like, okay, let's get to the root, because I'm all about the root of the problem. Let's get to the root. Let's go 5 whys into whatever it is. Why? It's because I don't value myself. I'm like, where did that come from? What would it be like if you didn't have that belief about yourself? Oh my God, then I'd be okay. So let's switch that belief. Can you wake up and love yourself? Can you give yourself a high five in the mirror like Mel Robbins says? Can you get away from people who are toxic in your life and let them the fuck go? I had to wish my sister well in 2005. I didn't see her from my age of 9. And then I saw her again in the 30s. Long story short, she changed completely. She became a victim and I wished her all the best. You have to get rid of toxic people in your life. My wife just disowned her brother. She's like, we have nothing in common. There's no good from it. I'm going to wish him well. And she feels fine with it. She's good with it. Like if he passed away, she goes, I feel sad for a second, but we're just not connected. And he's a negative person. He doesn't share the same values in my life. So unfortunately, sometimes we have to make those cuts, and we're like the 5 people we're around the most. So if we're hanging around toxic people who, as they say, misery loves company, then chances are we're going to be like that. And so it's about having that self-worth and that value to sit there and say, yeah, it's going to suck, but on the other side of it, I deserve to be treated right. And on the other end of it, I deserve to have the career that makes me passionate. And I deserve to be healthy, and I deserve to look good, whatever it might be. And that's what I help people do, is to shift that belief about how they love themselves.
That's good, man. How do you do it, man? How, as a coach, how do you balance that tough love approach with the compassion when you know that someone's really struggling with whatever they're going through? How do you find that balance?
Ooh, I've never been asked that question before. Dude, you win. You win. Let me give that some thought here for a second. I have initial response. It's tough. But I think people can tell by the conversation we've been having tonight that I do love and care about people. I genuinely do. I mean, I did coaching before I didn't charge for my coaching for like a year and a half. I did pay it forward coaching where I would coach you for 6 weeks and then you would go do 3 nice things for complete strangers and come back and tell me about it. It was based on the Pay It Forward movie with Haley Joel Osment. And it was based on the movie Patch Adams with Robin Williams. I thought I can use my gift. I was making good money in my corporate life. I love to coach. I love to help people. And so I developed that compassion, but honestly, it's number one, listening intently to the people and being able to paraphrase back to them where they're at, finding the love and the compassion for if I had been in that situation and gone through that person's experiences, might I be like them? And then place myself in that situation as they're sharing their story and then be able to kind of speak in their language back to them what I'm understanding, but in a more loving and compassionate way. But at the same time, my innate tendency is to be very straightforward, very sarcastic. My tendency used to be very abrupt, like my mother. She didn't give a shit about what you thought or what you did. She was going to tell you her opinion, and that was all it was. She was always wanting to be right and not happy. I just did a TikTok video on that. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And so it's about
explain the difference. Break for a second. Go there real quick. I would love to hear about how you unpack that. Do you want to be right or want to be happy?
Yeah,
unpack that a little bit for me.
Well, so many people want to be right because as kids, everything that we go in our life, I'll give you guys the sneak peek behind the curtain. Everything that is our beliefs now is based on what happened between 0 and 5. Usually 0, 5, 0, 7 in our life. That's what makes our beliefs. Our beliefs make our feelings create our actions, and it all perpetuates itself until something changes, till something breaks, until we hit rock bottom, right? The alcoholic doesn't change until he hits rock bottom, et cetera, et cetera. The battered wife doesn't change until she hits rock bottom. And then we have to go back. And when I ask people, like, where did you come up with that belief that you weren't worthy? 99% of the time it is something I said, or I'll say it another way. Tell me about an experience that you had as a kid where you developed that belief about yourself. 99% of the time, I was 7 years old. You know, I told the girls that I was going to do this and they laughed at me and thought I was stupid. And from that point forward, I didn't really share anymore. I'm like, what would it be like if you didn't take that situation so personal and realize that those kids were just doing based on what they learned in their life? And so when I think about right versus happy, we want to be right. Because, well, hey, when Chris is right, you're good. You got that answer right. You're right. But when you're wrong, you're punished. You're made to feel less than. You're made to feel worthless. And my mother spent her entire life she would put her fucking boss down. I'm like, are you stupid? Like, really? She goes, I don't give a shit. I'm like, you were fired from every fucking job you had. Like, that's ridiculous. So I learned, like, if I don't want to be like her, I need to shut up and listen very intently and be able to paraphrase back to what people are saying. And that sometimes the old adage is don't lose the battle to win the war, or don't win the battle to lose war. Right. So I tell people sometimes, you know, when somebody's spouting off something like today in politics, like, well, this and this and this and this and this and that's not, I'm like, oh, yeah. Instead of saying you're full of shit because I know, but I say, tell me more about that. And then they tell me, and I'm like, okay, where did you study that? Where, you know, do you think that person may have got their facts incorrect? So I ask them probing questions to kind of get them to question what it is that they're coming from. Or sometimes I just say, you know what, that's a really interesting perspective. Thank you. And then I go on to something I'd rather talk about because I'm not going to change their mind about politics or anything else. So I don't care about being right in that situation. I care about being happy and saving my sense of self and my stress, because I can easily take on that person's situation and go, well, God, geez, what if the world is going to hell in a handbasket? And what if, you know, women are going to lose their rights and all this stuff? I'm like, there's nothing I can do to control it. I'm going to be fat and happy, in which people say, well, Chris, you're burying your head in the sand, but I choose to see the world in a beautiful place. But when you want to be right all the time, that puts people on the defensive. And what happens if I put you on the defense, Chris? You're going to come out swinging like, no, motherfucker. You know, I'm going to show you the 7 ways where I'm right. And then there's this defensiveness and there's this attacking, and then people walk away going, well, fuck that person. Right. As opposed to saying, how can I walk away understanding humanity a little bit better? I'm not going to agree with them. Ultimately, we're going to get to a spot and I'm going to say, you know what? I completely disagree with what it is that you're saying. I still love you as a person. I think you're a great guy, but we're going to disagree on that. Let's move on to something we do have in common. rather than saying, I'm going to isolate myself from those people, which I see people doing all the time right now. Right now, the big thing is unification and anger towards a particular segment of society, whether they're Republicans or Trump supporters or this or that.
Yeah.
There's that. It's bullshit. It's like, if you don't love your fellow man, then how are you really truly loving yourself? So,
absolutely. Yeah. That's good, man.
Did I answer the question?
We could go on all night. I have one more question. I'm going to do one more question, but we literally can go on all night, man. Because, we could. I want to talk about fear, man.
Ooh.
Fear versus action. You know, one of the biggest obstacles that people have in taking action is their fear, the fear of the unknown. What have you learned over the years of studying, coaching, dealing with people, how people handle fear?
That's a great question. That's a whole another hour conversation. I studied fear for quite some time. I will give everybody in the short answer. I'll give everybody a great book. It's by Susan Jeffers. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And so I was very curious about this. I'm like, why am I afraid of judgment? Why am I afraid of failure? Why am I afraid of making mistakes? Mm-hmm. And I unwrapped that. And what fear really is, like, I sat there and I thought, why am I afraid to fly in a plane? Why am I afraid of heights? And I kept digging because I'm like, well, how can I get to the root? And it's a fear of not being in control. So we want certainty as human beings. We want certainty, predictability. That's why a lot of people stay complacent. They stay comfortable. Like, well, if I continue to do this, I know what the outcome is going to be. And again, it goes back to childhood experiences. Oh, when I got up in front of the class and I sang and everybody says, oh my God, you suck. You're terrible. Nobody gave that person an opportunity to take singing lessons. Nobody gave that opportunity, so we make that judgment in that moment, like, oh, if I don't put myself out there, then I don't have to get that judgment or that ridicule. I don't have to make mistakes. So as long as I do what's expected of me, then I'll get your love and validation. Again, thinking about kids, what did we want? We wanted our parents' love and approval. We wanted kids to like us. We wanted to be included. We wanted to fit in. And that shit continues for our entire life, whether we're cognizant of it or not. That's why I'm who I am today. I was a student high speaker and I did what prescriptively in my life. If you're in front of me, what does Chris want? How does Chris want me to be? Okay. I'm going to be that person for Chris. I'm going to be that person for Sheila. I'm going to be that person for Patrick. I'm going to be that person for that person. And then ultimately I had to ask myself in the mirror one day, I'm like, you're a smart ass dude. You're a biker. You swear you're honest. Like, just be you. And so I realized the fear of all of that stuff was what was holding me back. It was like this protection. Like, as long as I do what you need to do, then I'll be successful, because my big fear at that point was becoming homeless. And I'm like, Chris, as long as you bust your ass and you work and you continue to improve yourself, you won't be homeless. You will figure it out. You're the guy that's never going to stop, whether you have to do 3 jobs a day, whatever it might be. But in that Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, there's another book now that's an accompaniment that's got worksheets in it that's really good too. It's about just asking yourself, again, what do I want to be remembered for? Do I want to be remembered for somebody who doesn't take risks, doesn't take chances? Like, we're all an inspiration to someone, whether it's our friends, whether it's our family, whether it's our kids, whether our kid's 8 years old or 22 years old. Those people are looking at us and like, what's Chris doing? Like, how is he changing the world? How is he showing up for himself? How is he loving himself? By the way we take care of our bodies, by the way we take care of our relationships. And so ultimately, when you have that big sense of leverage of your purpose and your meaning, and you ask yourself those questions, like, what am I supposed to be learning from this experience where I'm afraid to go out on stage and speak my story? I was just helping somebody yesterday. She says, I want to start a podcast. And I said, why haven't you? Or I said, how long have you wanted to start a podcast? She goes, for 2 years. And I said, what do you want to do a podcast about? And she said, I quote, well, I wrote this book. And I'm like, holy fuck, you wrote a book. That's pretty fucking amazing. I wrote this book and da-da-da. And I said, okay, what are you afraid of? She goes, I'm afraid of people challenging me and thinking I'm not right. And I said, why is it important to be right? You have your valid opinion based on the experiences that you have. That's neither right nor wrong. That's your experience. And that's your truth. I said, so own your truth. I said, you're afraid of people challenging. If they challenge you, what are you going to do? I said, my number one experience is listen, because maybe there may be something in there you can learn. Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that, Chris. That's a great idea. Thank you so much for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. So oftentimes we don't want to hear the truth, because if we feel like it's a tink in our armor, like, oh shit, I didn't get that right. God darn it. I always suck. Like, stop saying always.
You want to be perfect.
And I told her, yeah. And she said, I'm looking for perfection. And I said, perfection's bullshit. I said, anybody in your life who's going to judge you if it's not perfect. I said, trust me, when I started a radio show in 2013, I did that for 5 years. The first time I showed up on that radio show, I was petrified. And at that point I'd been speaking on stages, but I never sat in front of, that was actually a recording. It wasn't on video. I was scared to death. And I just said, I'm just going to start talking, and whatever happens, happens. And I know by the 20th episode, I'll be 19 times better than I was at the beginning. And so I put that fear of rejection out there. And then I've been doing my podcast now, Raw and Unscripted, for 6 years. I just celebrated my 305th episode, and beyond a shadow of a doubt, every time I get better, I get more comfortable. I walk in here and I tell my Alexa thingy to turn my lights on, and I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to trust in the flow of what it is that I'm going to say. I don't prepare. My show's called Raw and Unscripted for a reason. And I speak from the heart. And sometimes I talk too fast, and sometimes I may say the same thing over and over again. But at the end of the day, did I speak from the heart? Did I impact somebody potentially? Yeah. Okay, cool. Like, stop being afraid. It's ridiculous. It's holding you back. And the only thing you're getting is going to be regret later on.
That's good, brother.
What about you? Let me ask you that same question before we end. How do you help people overcome fear? Because I mean, that's such an important aspect of life.
I think for me, it's the same concept where the thing that you fear, let's just go ahead and just do it anyways. Those emotions, those feelings, what you thought, because reality is the Bible. This is what it is. The Bible says, although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. What he's actually saying in that scripture, what he's talking about, he said, although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So there's two things that are present. The fear of the death that he's thinking about, which is the shadow, because it's not real. You think he's going to die, but it's just the shadow of it. So we go through life doing the same thing all the time. I fear the shadow of divorce. I feel the shadow of the imposter syndrome. I feel the shadow I'm going to get fired. I feel the shadow of, well, we have to realize that it's just the shadow. It's not real. Yep. I'm on the plane, so I have a fear of plane. Oh, you have a fear that the plane's going to fall out of the sky. So that's the shadow that's going to fall out the sky. It hadn't happened. You're fearing the shadow of something. Shadow ain't real.
Right.
So you just got to overcome that shadow, that feeling of whatever that fear is, it's not real.
So true. Preach it, man. I mean, it really is. It's a make-believe concept in our mind, again, to keep us safe and certain without having that fear of falling. And it's like, I mean, for me, heights, don't like them. And I was in Jamaica, and I have two different height stories real quick. I was in Jamaica and everybody wanted to go zip lining. And I'm like, that's okay. You guys can go. And they're like, Chris, what are you afraid of? I said, I'm not fucking hanging by a little string going through the jungle. No, thank you. And then I thought about it. And I'm like, Chris, what are you afraid of? Oh, if the line breaks, I'm going to fall. I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen? I said, you're either going to get crippled or you're going to die. But maybe going through that air and having that experience that so many other people have had safely, maybe you're going to feel the sense of exhilaration. And at the other end of it, after going through this, aren't you going to feel a sense of accomplishment and be able to even be better at coaching and walking people through their fears if you do the shit that you say that you're scared of? I clipped myself on that zip line, and up until the very last one, I was doing pretty good. There was a couple of scary ones where you had to zip line to a tree, and there was only like a I don't know, a 24-inch ledge, but there was somebody there to help you on there. And I felt like I almost fell backwards, but I was tethered. It wasn't until I got to the last one where there was like bushes, there was trees about 20 yards out. And my wife went first, and she's like, woo! And then you hear, holy shit. And I was next. And I was like, if she said that, because she's ballsy, she's crazy. She like jumped out of an airplane. I'm like, if she said that, I don't want to do it. And then I'm like, I was the last one to go. Everybody went. And so I looked at the guy and I said, all right, let's go. And he pushed me. He goes, it's very important that you don't hit the brake too much. You're going to go for a while. And I was just like, my heart was like thumping out of my chest. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Chris, you can do this. Chris, you can do this. Chris, you can do this. I said, just push me. Whoom. And I got to the edge of the trees and I was like, I wonder what she's yelling oh shit about. All the other ones were pretty, I still get chills about this. All the other ones were pretty, safe, but not safe. This one, I was probably about, I don't know, a mile up above the forest floor. I mean, it was a long, long way down. And instead of going, holy shit, I'm going to die. I'm like, whoa, look at what I'm doing.
Wow.
just flying on this fucking thing, seeing the people on the other end. I'm getting closer and closer, and they're like cheering me on. I'm like, oh my God, how exhilarating is this? And I made it. And the first thing I said to myself was, I'm proud of myself.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, we got to do those scary. That's what living is about, man. So many people are existing and just playing it safe, and that's not the way to live.
Yeah, you gotta live. You get one of these, man. You gotta live your life. I had pretty much the same experience, man. I was in Costa Rica doing the exact same thing, getting ready to do that, doing the zip line, and was scared, But once again, we go through that process of, Chris, what are you actually fearing? This shadow of something, what I'm saying? So it was like, no, I'm doing it. I'm going, what I'm saying? Because like you said, on the other side of that fear,
hell yeah, let's do it. I still haven't convinced myself to jump out of a plane yet. I'm like, do I really need to do that? When I don't want to do something, I make myself do it, but I'm still like, I think I'm all right.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, we go through those things, what I'm saying? There's things that, you had to take a step back and recalculate and put some stuff together, and then you jump right back in there again. So, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen, man. It's going to happen. Man, such a great show, man. Such a great show. We got to do this again. We got to do this again. Do a follow-up call. Do a follow-up conversation, man, because there were so many things that we could have talked about, so many different things that we could have unpacked for our viewers, our listeners. But you brought the heat, man. You brought that fire. And I appreciate your authentic self. Every time we talk, you've always come authentic.
You're welcome. I had to live up to that introduction, dude. I was like, oh boy, I'm hyped up right now. So I'm excited to see who this dude is.
Brother, you made it easy. Everything I said was true from the heart. You made it very, very easy. So I always allow the guests to give words of encouragement, something's on your heart for the people that they can take away from this conversation tonight. So I'm going to give the floor to you, and just go ahead and share your heart, man, for the people.
Cool. Well, first of all, Chris, thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. Definitely got to get you back on the Raw and Unscripted show and turn the mics around a little bit and get some more input on you. For people who don't know that, they can go listen to episode number 253. It's March 4th. If you go to rawandunscripted.com, it's there. If you go to youtube.com/the Christopher Rausch, you guys can find it there. There's a podcast playlist for Raw and Unscripted, and go check out Chris being on the other end of the microphone. We called it, what was it called? I have it right here. We called the show Flawed, Fabulous, and Fearless, Your Journey to Self-Acceptance. And that was a transformative conversation too, but thank you for this.
That was literally an interview during my process, man. Remember?
Yeah.
Wow.
You should go back and watch it and see how much you've grown.
I am.
For people listening and watching this, I mean, the central thing is, what are you going to do? It's one thing to get all inspired and hyped up and go, fuck, Chris, you nailed it. And you guys were awesome. And you packed so much strategies into it. But ultimately, what action are you going to take? That's what I'm about, is action. And so I have this crazy, crazy complex system. No, sticky notes. Sticky notes. I love sticky notes. You guys can buy them on Amazon, get tons of sticky notes. You know what I do? I have sticky notes on my monitor. I have right now 4 of them. I have 4 sticky notes. And so what I do is I focus on those 4 sticky notes. Am I doing that today? Am I doing a great job of that? Am I doing a great job of that? Have I been paying attention to that? So for yourself tonight, ladies and gentlemen, take some sticky notes, take a piece of paper, whatever it might be, and write down 3 strategies. That's it. We've dropped probably half a dozen, 20, I don't know what it is, but take 3 strategies and say, you know what? I'm going to do those 3 things in the next 7 days. And take that risk, take that action, live in the moment, be present, say what you need to say, have those conversations. If you're unhappy in your job, then start looking for a new job, start looking for a new career. If you're unhappy in your relationship, go and talk to your spouse and say, hey, listen, I'm unhappy in this, but take that action. Decide for yourself that you guys are going to love and cherish and appreciate yourself. And that starts off with 5 things: hydration, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and vitamin D. Hydration, you got to drink half your body weight in ounces of water every single day. Your body's like 85% water. Most people do not drink enough water. Most people don't even drink water. They drink Diet Coke and all this other shit. You wonder why you feel like crap. We would tend to feel like crap. We tend to make bad decisions. Sleep, I track my sleep with an Oura ring. Oh my God, those are expensive. I think it was like $200-300. So when I started tracking sleep, I spent a year hacking sleep and like, how do I get better sleep? What are circadian rhythms? What are sleep cycles? How important is deep sleep? How do I get better deep sleep? And I started understanding that. And so I wake up every day, and one of the things I do after I do my intentions and everything is I look at my sleep. Oh shit, I didn't get any deep sleep last night. I ate late. That's what I did. Or, I had a couple of drinks last night, or whatever it might be. I'm like, okay, don't do that anymore. Exercise, obviously getting your heart rate up and feeling good about that. Go to the doctor, get blood tests. Like, you guys should know your blood numbers. Look at your blood numbers, figure it out. If you're low in a particular area, see what you got to do to fix that. Get a vitamin deficiency test about your health. Like, be very serious and cognizant about it. Make a point to push yourself 1% every single day. Nutrition, like, stop eating sugar and gluten. I mean, that shit's bad for you. Start eating really good vegetables and start eating really good fruit. Take care of your body, eat some lean meats, get some proteins, get some supplements, whatever it is you need to do. See Chris. And a vitamin D. I found this out for myself. Even though I got lots of sunshine, I did a vitamin deficiency test millions of years ago. I've done them since then. And I found out I was deficient in vitamin D, and I was shocked. And so I take a once a week vitamin D pill, and it helps with depression. It helps with mental fog. I've been now, my new thing is longevity drugs. So I just started taking NAD with resveratrol and something else in it. So I'm constantly thirsty about what it is that I can do for myself. So those 5 things, you start focusing on those, taking care of yourself, making better decisions, taking action on the things that you should be taking action on. Have a big why, be excited about life. And share this episode out with 5 people that you love and you care about, and tell them what you learned from it. And let's all together make this world a better place, because I don't care whether you're black, white, straight, gay, Republican, Democrat, sexual orientation, religious, whatever it is. We're all more the same on the inside than we are different. Split us down the middle. I do this when I speak on stage. I'm like, look around the audience. There's all people from different ethnicities and all different religious beliefs. I said, but you split us down the middle. Guess what? You can give a liver to that person. You guys can trade blood with that person. I donate blood every 8 weeks. It's type A negative. I save a life every 8 weeks. We're more the same than we are different. And together right now, the world needs us to be kinder to ourselves, kinder to each other. Have compassion and understanding when we're on the road, that people might be late to their 3rd job. Their kid might have gotten hurt at school. Like, stop being so pissed off that people are cutting in front of you. You're not going to get there any sooner by letting one car in. Let's all let somebody out of the driveway. Let's all let somebody merge in. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, take that 30 seconds to go, man, I'm pretty fucking grateful I have a car and I have a job to go to, whatever it might be. So many people are in a hurry to get to something that they don't love or care about. It's ridiculous. So let's all be good. Let's all show the world that we're not divided. Let's show love and respect for one another. And I thank you guys for being here.
Simply amazing, bro. Simply amazing. Real quick, man, go ahead and share with the people a little bit about how they can actually get in contact with you. Drop your websites, drop your contact information in case somebody wants some coaching. How can they actually get in contact with you?
It's super simple. And thank you for this. They can go to noexcusescoach.com. That has my website. It has all my social media links. It has my group coaching information on the main page. It's got my book on there, where if you enter your name and your email address, you can help me make it a bestseller. You're going to get a bunch of insights and stories I couldn't include in the book. We're going to have a Q&A session about the book. If you go to Google and you just Google hashtag No Excuses Coach, you'll find me everywhere. You'll find me on interviews like this. You'll find my YouTube. You'll find all sorts of shit about me, probably shit I don't even know about, but the best place is noexcusescoach.com. You go there, check out my podcast, Raw and Unscripted. It's in 33 countries. It's been on for 6 years. There's 305 episodes. My episode this last Tuesday was my birthday episode, where I shared 8 irrefutable rules about life. So I'm super proud of that accomplishment and the greatness that podcast delivers. And I would love for people to connect with me. And if you watched it all the way till this point, an hour and 19 minutes into it, if you guys want, I will give you a complimentary coaching session. I don't do this very often anymore, but because you guys have watched this far, reach out to me and we'll have an hour conversation. I won't sell you on anything. If you want to work with me, great. If not, you'll walk away feeling a little bit better and not a little bit better, a lot better, and a lot more clarified in what it is that you want to do. You show up with one situation that you got, and then we'll work through that, and you'll be a changed person. And I just ask that you go do that for somebody else with your gifts.
I love it, man. We actually dropped your link actually in the chat. So they actually have your link in the chat. So go check him out, man. Go check him out. I'm going to say a couple of these, before I let you go, I'm going to say a couple of these comments. Robert Brooker said, hello, Chris Allen and Christopher. Hey, Robert, how you doing, bro? What you think about most is what you attract. Awesome. He also said, amen. Lisa Nowak said, truth. Brian Kelly said, love me some Christopher Rausch. Jacqueline Rose says, love this. Madeline? Yeah, said congratulations. Jacqueline Rose says, I'm so proud of you, Christopher, of all you have accomplished in your life. So you got a fan out there, bro. That's good stuff. Jacqueline Rose also said, thank God I don't keep toxic people in my life. Madeline says, Ross, you're spot on. Good stuff. Lisa, unnecessary worry or fear is worrying about the evils that never arrive to come and harm us. Great point. I love it. Madeline says, I sang at the top of the World Trade Center, open air, and I have the fear of heights. I am much less now as I worked on it. Thanks for sharing. You're very welcome. Good job. Robert Brooker says, when you find your why and let God worry about the how. Boom. Good point. Good stuff. Jacqueline says, get hated for telling the truth. I keep it 100% honest and real. Madeline, Mr. Allen, so glad I was notified of this live with Christopher Rausch. You're very welcome. Good stuff, man. We got some good comments in here, man. People doing their thing. Madeline says, REM cycle coming from an insomnia. I guess she had dealt with insomnia. So good. Keeping it simple and following through on those sticky notes. So Madeline says, keeping it simple and following through on those sticky notes in a huge transformation for the better self, for bettering herself. Good stuff. Yeah, I do those sticky notes as well, man. I got sticky notes everywhere.
Good.
Darlene Eaton says, hey, dear friends. Hey, Darlene, how are you? Good stuff. Well, Chris, great show tonight, bro. Great show tonight. We definitely got to follow this up again. Do another part 2 on my platform, on your platform. We'll make it happen. We'll do that very, very soon. It's been an absolute pleasure, man, just talking with you, having a complete conversation and transformation tonight. As always, man, if you ever need me for whatever, man, I'm just a phone call away. And we can chop it up and do whatever we need to do, bro.
We will. We got to.
Yeah. I appreciate you so much for everything that you're doing in the community, everything you're doing for mindset, coaching, just making the world a better place for you just being here, man. So kudos to you, my brother.
You asked some phenomenal questions tonight. This has been a joy and a pleasure to do with you, man.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Let's do it again. All right, man. Peace. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolutely pleasure doing this show tonight. Absolutely amazing dude. Go check him out on his platform and go reach out to him. Like he said, he's going to give you a free coaching session. And he's the truth. He's absolutely the truth. And I told you guys, stay tuned for the show because he don't hold no punches. He keeps it raw and authentic each and every time. And I appreciate everything that he's doing in the community, everything he's doing. So reach out to him and make sure that you go ahead and get that free coaching session. As always, we are here every single week on Wednesday. Thursday nights, every Thursday at 8:00. We're gonna be right here doing a live show. This is unscripted, like this show is. It's unscripted. So the guests don't know what the conversation is going to be. They don't even know what the questions are. So sometimes I don't even know what the questions are going to be. There's some things, that framework I want to go in, but sometimes I don't even know where I want to go based upon the conversation. Check us out every Thursday night right here at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be bringing you some of the greatest minds in the community of fitness and mindset and coaching and all that type of stuff. Go check out my book. You know, your boy got his book out there. There's my book. There it is. It's Time to Shift. It's a 5-step program that I created, just talking about some things that I have been through over the last couple of years, the journey, how to unpack some things. It's available on Amazon. So go check it out. And I think we got the little link. Down at the bottom. There it is. That's the link right there for the Amazon. Also, if you just hit the little QR code, it'll take you directly to the site, directly from the actual QR code. So it's absolutely amazing being here, guys. Just being authentic, bringing you raw stuff each and every week. Simply amazing, man, just to be in this space at this particular time in my life. I appreciate you, each and every one of you, for rocking with me each and every week. Also, somebody said this, if you want to, we just put this out there. Someone hit me up a couple weeks ago and said, what's your Cash App? I want to send you something. If you want to send something to the little Cash App, you want to show some love, there it is. $on the grind coach. That's $on the grind coach. I want to give it up. She told me not to say her name, but last week someone dropped $200 in the doggone Cash App. I was like, woo-hoo! She told me not to say nothing. She told me not to reveal her name. So I appreciate you doing that. It's not expected, but I definitely appreciate you. So check me out every week, y'all. Come right back here every single week at 8 o'clock on Thursday. And we're going to be bringing you the real stuff each and every week. So listen, love you guys. I pray for each and one of you for success this week, your journey, prosperity, all the good stuff. But listen, don't talk about it, be about it. Wow. Peace.